What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talking Sports with Jake. I hope you're all doing well. MLB Free Agency is swirling. Signings are starting to come in. We got two big dominoes off the board. We got Jacob deGrom, when healthy, the best pitcher in baseball, has signed a 5-year, $185 million contract with the Texas Rangers. So big contract. Obviously, as you all know, I'm a big Mets fan. So, of course, I'm going to give my take on it. Look. deGrom was here for 9 years. He had a lot of great memories. He was one of the best pitchers the Mets have ever had. Probably on their pitching Mount Rushmore. It probably goes Tom Seaver. Obviously, he's first. And then after that, only pitchers besides Tom Seaver that were probably better as a Met were probably maybe Jerry Koosman. There's very few others. You sit from it? Maybe, maybe Doc Gooden. And then deGrom's right there. He's probably their he's one of the greatest starting pitchers in Mets history, no doubt. I hope the Mets retires number one day. And look, I did want him back. But first of all, he's 34 years old, going on 35. He gets 5 years. Also, the guy has had a lot of trouble staying healthy these last 2 seasons. He's throwing well under 200 innings combined the last 2 seasons. When healthy, as of right now, he is the best pitcher in baseball when healthy. Also, the Mets had 101 wins last year. deGrom made 11 starts. He made 11 starts last year. So I'm like, you're not giving him that contract. 5 for 185? I think it's a little ridiculous. The money I don't have a problem with. He gets $37 million a year. He deserves the annual average value. I think is fine. That makes him, one of the 3 or 4 highest paid starting pitchers in the league. That's fine. He deserves that. But giving him 5 years, like the Mets offered him a 3-year deal of $120 million. That's 3 years, so that brings him to he's 37. 3-year deal, which I think I wouldn't have gone further than 3 years. I think 3 years is very appropriate. That gives him $40 million a year. Which, there's another thing that just happened. I will get to that in a minute. At the time, that would have made him the second highest paid pitcher in baseball, along with his teammate, right behind his teammate, Max Scherzer. And I think that's a fair offer. I know there's been a lot of, rumors. They were saying, he told Texas that he was interested in, and he was leaving. Then there's rumor that if the contract offers are similar, he would prefer to stay. And then Atlantic, who we thought might sign, they kind of bowed out of the sweepstakes. Then you had, Texas looked like they were starting to focus on, Verlander and Rodon. So maybe the Mets might be at this point competing against themselves. This is what I think happened. Towards the very, very end of the regular season, as the postseason was starting, there was a report that came out that said going into the year, deGrom was expected to went into the season with the mindset this would be his last trip to the Mets. He was expected to lead the Mets. I do think he enjoyed his time here. Made a lot of great memories. Obviously, won 2 Cy Youngs. He could, if he was healthy, could have won even more. But just they really haven't outside of this year. They really haven't won much, despite him having a sub-2 ERA over the last 4 or 5 years. Kind of makes sense. But then after the year they had, coming out of nowhere with 101 games, though the season ended very poorly, they did have 101 wins, which is a very good number. We're in the playoffs. And, the impact that Buck Showalter, who was manager of the year, of course, this year, had Max Scherzer, who they bring in, another first-class pitcher like deGrom, of course, one of the greatest pitchers of his generation, one of the greatest pitchers of all time, to be honest. And the team that they have, deGrom really enjoyed the season, and all of a sudden, it appeared 50-50 that he might come back. Now, all of a sudden, although he, despite only making 11 starts, he did plan on still opting out and test the market, but he was still, all of a sudden, now was leaning toward re-signing with the Mets. Along the Mets, we heard the Braves. We've been hearing it since June that they would try to steal him from the Mets. But then early on, they said they didn't want to spend the money on him, so they kind of bowed out. But then Texas said they were interested in him, and then deGrom literally told Texas that he's interested in them. At that point, it looked like he's probably looks like he was going to Texas. Then all of a sudden, a rumor came out that if the contract offers are similar, DeGrom prefers to stay. Which, the teams that were involved, we were obviously the Mets. Yeah, Texas. Remember, Texas Rangers had 68 wins. They won 68 games last year. 68 wins. They haven't been to the playoffs in quite a few years. They haven't really been relevant in a few years, to be honest. Last year, they spent close to $600 million in free agency, 68 wins. They spent $500 combined on Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. They spent like 60 plus on John Gray, who's another veteran starter, and they, amongst others, that's like $560 million right there. They dropped north of $500 million on players last year, and they were in last place in their division. They had 90 plus losses. And then you heard the Dodgers, who were interested. No surprise, Dodgers are on every big free agent every single year. They're always they're always a good team. And then you hit the Rays were interested. No one really took that seriously. The Rays were never going to spend the money to get DeGrom. They probably figured, hey, I'll think help the team. Let's just throw our hand in there. You never know, I guess. And then look, the Mets offered him 3 years, $120 million. He probably, he got the offer. He got the offer, but then the Texas Rangers called him up to offer you 5 for $185, and just 185. Although he would get 3 more. The AAV for the Mets was $3 million per year higher. Mexico giving him $40 million a year compared to Texas giving him $37 million a year. He's also getting 2 more years in Texas, 5 years compared to 3 years, and he's getting $65 million more in total value. He got 185 from Texas. The Mets are also 120. And the rumor was that if the offers were similar, he would go back to the Mets. But the offers were not similar. He got $65 million more in total value to go with Texas. So he got that. He pretty much told the Mets that I got an offer from Texas, and it's better than yours, and I'm going to take it. Thanks for everything. So Mets never got to make a final offer. It is what it is. He's in Texas now. He had a great 9-year run. When he returns to Citi Field in late August, I hope the Mets cheer him. He had a lot of incredible moments with the Mets. He should have his number retired one day, in my opinion. I hope no one ever was for number 48 again out in Queens. But just because, you're not giving him that contract if you're the Mets. I don't understand why Texas even did it. Texas, I kind of get it, because at this point, they're so relevant. They're like, what do we have to lose at this point? I guess. Also, the Mets have their work, and they still have work to do, especially when it comes to their pitching staff. But the Mets last year went 101 games. We're in the playoffs. We're one win away from winning their division. And if they did, obviously by default it would have been into an extra round, because they would have gotten the first round bye. Heading into September, it looked like we were going to win our division and possibly have a chance to win a World Series. But then after collapsing in September, we had to drop into the wild card, and then unfortunately we lost 2 out of 3 to the San Diego Padres, who are a good team. We should have beaten them. They did not hit in 2 of those 3 games. Against Joe Musgrove, that was just embarrassing. We had probably the best rotation trio in the league with Scherzer, DeGrom, and Chris Bassett. And 2 out of those 3 guys gave him nothing. Scherzer gave up 7 runs in 4 1/3. Bassett gave up 4 runs over 4 innings. DeGrom was the only guy who gave him something. He gave up 2 or 3 runs over 6. He was the only guy out of those 3 who were all first class starting pitchers who gave him anything in that series. But he's in Texas now, so is what it is. That being said, the Mets have found the replacement for him. They have signed Justin Verlander, the 4-time Cy Young Award winner and 2-time World Series champion. Of course, he's won 2 of the Cy Youngs and both his rings in Houston. He is now a New York Met. He has a 2-year deal with the Mets worth $86 million. That puts him at $44 million a year, which would make him the highest, it's more than Max Scherzer got last year. And he's got a vesting option for a 3rd, but at least 2. I am very happy as a Mets fan. Yes, he got 44. I would have liked to give him a smidge less, but Verlander is probably a top 3 pitcher in the game. He gets 2 years, which is very probably because he's like 30, 37, 38 years old, 39 years old. He is still one of the best pitchers in the game. He has sub 2 ERA and won the Cy Young last year, 38 years old. Was a difference maker on the World Series winning Houston Astros. Now, you once again have an incredible rotation duo with two of the top 5 pitchers in the game with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. Of course, Scherzer will be 38 and Verlander is pushing 40, but they still are both elite pitchers. So I'm very happy with that deal. So the Mets go and grab Verlander. We'll see what else they did. Definitely going to need at least one more starter. Do you bring back Chris Bassett or Taijuan Walker? Do you try to grab Carlos Rodon from the Giants, who had a big year last year? The last couple of years has found himself a tough start to his career. Do you grab this kid from overseas, Senga, who was a stud overseas? Do you grab him? My guess their plan should probably be to grab one of those 3 guys, because Rodon is probably an ace. You have, Chris Bassett's a really good second or third starter. Obviously, he pitched for the Mets last year. Senga was an ace overseas. I would hope he can be at least a solid second or third guy in the bigs. And then maybe you bring in a guy like Jameson Taillon from our Yankee, who they're in on. Maybe Andrew Heaney, who had a bounce back year last year with the Dodgers. Maybe do you also try to bring back Taijuan Walker, who's been solid the last 2 years for the Mets? So that's probably should be their plan. Also got to answer the bullpen. Of course, they already brought back Diaz, but Seth Lugo is a free agent. Lavino is a free agent, and he definitely need another left-hander. So we'll see what they do. A bunch of other news. By the way, the winter meeting started yesterday, so this is when a lot of the deals go down, which is why all of a sudden we're getting a flood of deals after pretty much nothing in November. We got Pittsburgh Pirates All-Star outfielder Brian Reynolds has requested a trade. He's got 3 years left on his contract. He's got 1 year left on that 2-year extension he signed last year, and then he's still got some small arbitration years after that contract ends. He had a big year last year. He's one of the best young players in all of baseball. Apparently, the Pirates offered him the biggest contract in Pirates history. That being said, the highest paid player in their history, the highest contract they've ever given out was $70 million that they gave to Brian Hayes last year over 8 years. Not even $10 million a year. I mean, if they could have given him $100 million over 10 years for $10 million a year. Like Brian Reynolds on the open market could probably easily get north of $30 million easily. If not, he could possibly even push 40. If he was a free agent right now, he would not get as much as Aaron Judge, who's looking like he's going to get, I heard, possibly a 9-year deal. Obviously, we know he'll probably get north of 35, maybe close to $40 million a year. I think Reynolds could make not quite that, but he would easily make over 30, probably over 35, maybe even. So he's upset Pirates don't plan to trade him. They said the disappointment with the trade request. We'll see where that goes. The White Sox deal with Matt Clevenger was reported a week or 2 ago. A 1-year deal is actually worth $12 million, not $8 million. So he gets $12 million. You got Kyle Gibson going to the Baltimore Orioles on a 1-year deal. Tough year last year in Philly, ERA over 5, but the year prior between Texas and Philly was really good. It was an all-star. Overall, he's been a solid innings leader throughout his career. So Baltimore is hoping that he bounces back. We have a trade. Brewers continue to sell off. They trade their starting second baseman Colton Wong. He goes to Seattle. They get back Jesse Winker and Abraham Toro. I think that's a good trade for both sides. Seattle could have used a second baseman. Adam Frazier they had last year wasn't as good as he was the year before in Pittsburgh, where he almost won the batting title. They split that year between Pittsburgh and San Diego. Before last year was in Seattle. You get back Jesse Winker, who had a down year last year. He struggled a bit last year. About the year before was an all-star in Cincinnati. And Abraham Toro, who was a guy who came up in the Astros system, was pretty highly touted. Didn't do much in Houston. Just didn't get a lot of playing time on a team that had a lot of veterans on it. Was a World Series contender. Then he gets traded to Seattle, I think 2 years ago. In 2021, played a lot down the stretch. He's an infielder. Can play all over the field, but mainly an infielder, mainly second base, third baseman. And was one of the hottest hitters in the league the last, month and a half of the season in 2021. But last year he took a step back. He struggled, but he is still young. He goes to Milwaukee where they may get a chance to play. Milwaukee's been selling off a lot. Of course, they trade Hunter Renfroe, who I believe was their top power hitter last year. He goes to the Angels. Only got back a couple prospects in that team. Now you trade Wong, your second baseman. But you do get a pretty good return. You get back Jesse Winker, who would definitely be one of your out in your starting lineup, and Toro. Maybe you give him a shot, second base. I've heard, rumors or really speculation. Could they trade Corbin Burnes, who's probably a top 5 pitcher in the game, was the Cy Young 2 years ago in the National League. I heard they're probably going to keep him. After you trade Hader at the trade deadline last year, I heard Burnes and Brandon Woodruff, the 2 stud stars, are probably going to stay for now. But they traded Colt Wong to Seattle for Jesse Winker and Abraham Toro. Chris Martin, a veteran reliever, had a really strong year last year. He goes to Boston, 2 years, $17.5 million. Good pickup for Boston. They need as much bullpen up as they could get. Miguel Castro goes to Arizona, 1 year, $3.5 million. He started off pretty good with the Yankees. Then he got hurt, and then missed the rest of the year. The year prior with the Mets in 2021 had a strong year. Had a decent tender in Baltimore, but before that, so he's a pretty good reliever. Arizona picks him up. Arizona definitely needs some bullpen out. Rays make a splash. They pick up Zach Eflin, 3 years and $40 million. He goes to Tampa. I thought that was a bit of an overpay for Tampa. Eflin's a guy who is a solid innings eater, but he has a lot of trouble staying healthy. But if he's healthy, he could be a good pickup for the Rays. Rays also don't ask their stars to go very deep into ball games because of how deep their bullpen is. They use their openers a lot, of course. So maybe that'll help Eflin stay healthy. And they can limit his innings. But Eflin makes he goes to Tampa after a 7-year career in Philly. Matthew Boyd goes back to the Tigers, 1 year, $10 million. Was with Detroit for a while. Last year was in Seattle. Only pitched 10 games. These guys had a lot of injuries the last couple of years. Pitched just 10 games last year out of the bullpen. Goes back to Detroit, 1 year, $10 million. Detroit, obviously, big disappointment last year. Made a lot of moves last offseason, including giving Javier Baez a 6-year contract when he's on. He's one of the league's best shortstops, amongst other guys. Have a lot of young players who are very talented. Look like they could be a playoff team, and instead had only 66 wins, something like that. They had 90-plus losses. Trying to regroup. Of course, made a general manager change, and they bring back Matthew Boyd. See if they can try to resurrect him. That's all the free agency news that I've got. We have some Hall of Fame news. We got the Veterans Committee who they can try to get guys in who didn't quite get in the first time around the traditional way. Fred McGriff is in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him. He was a great player for the Atlanta Braves. Fun fact, he was actually originally drafted by the Yankees back in 1981 in the 9th round. I played the majority of his career with the Braves. 400-plus home runs, 5'10" All-Star, was a great player. That being said, my one problem with that is Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling did not get in. I don't understand. Barry Bonds is arguably the greatest player ever. He's the all-time leader in home runs. He's the all-time leader in walks. He's up there at RBIs. He has a single season. He's the all-time and single season record for home runs in a season and a career. And the dude's not in the Hall of Fame. Yes, he did steroids. He tested positive multiple times. But David Ortiz, who I love, David Ortiz, one of my favorite all-time players, absolutely deserved to be in. He was the first ballot Hall of Famer a year or two ago. He tested positive for the same drug that Barry Bonds did. Ortiz gets in first ballot, and Bonds has been going at this close to a decade now, and he hasn't gotten in. I don't understand. Him using... Yes, he used steroids. He cheated. But there's guys in the Hall of Fame that did steroids who just aren't nearly as good as Bonds. People don't realize everyone in the era was juiced. It's just that, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa just happen to be better players than them. So they get all the attention. But no one talks about, Brett Boone, who 1 year is a guy who's usually a 20, 25 home run a year guy. 1 year goes out there, has like 46 home runs. People are like, whoa, this guy sure is incredible. And then the year afterwards, he hits like 23. Like, what the heck happened? because he was juicing. One year he was juicing, and he hit by far career high of like 45, 46 bomb. Next year, he was off the juice because people were getting called. He was like, oh, shoot, I got to be careful. I shouldn't use this anymore. And he went back to his normal, 23 home runs, whatever it was. Roger Clemens had 7 Cy Youngs, the most ever. The guy was dominant like into like his 40s, pitched for like 4 different teams. He was in Boston, he was in Toronto at the end of his career. Pitched for the Yankees. He's not in. Are you kidding me? And Kurt Schilling. Yes, Schilling, he has his views. He's a little controversial. He made some comments while I was at ESPN that were not, that were not super moral. He's obviously we all know where he stands poetically. He said something kind of almost supporting the what happened on January 6th a couple of years ago, which we can all agree was stupid and it was dumb and it's incorrect. That being said, him being maybe not just him, not being the nicest guy in the world and having weird political views should not keep him out of the Hall of Fame when he obviously deserves to be in. So, shame on this MLB Hall of Fame committee. And then now they wait like another 3 years to go back on the ballot. It's ridiculous. All 3 of them should have been first out. Bonds should have won it when he was still playing, for crying out loud. Clemens easily should have been first ballot, and Schilling probably should have been first ballot as well. Should easily be in. I don't understand why they're not in. Ridiculous. Let's shift gears to hockey scores from last night. The Wild over the Stars, 6-5 in a shootout. Jets over the Ducks, 5-2. You had the Red Wings over the Blue Jackets, 4-2. Sabres over the Sharks, 6-3. And Islanders shut out the Blackhawks, 3-0. On to college basketball. Scores from last night or yesterday. Number 4, Arizona beats Cal, 81-68. Cal is 0-9. Ouch. Yikes. Number 5, Purdue beats Minnesota, 89-70. You had Nebraska with an upset over number 7, Creighton, 63-53, so big upset there. Number 13, Tennessee over Alcorn State, 94-40. Tennessee is a great team. Playing the SEC, Alcorn State, I think they play like the MAC or something. The MAC or the SWAC, they're not good. Virginia Tech upsets number 18 North Carolina, 80-72. UNC is really struggling. They were number 1 at one point. Now almost they're only 1 game over 500 through 9 games. Number 19 Kentucky over Michigan, 73-69. Northwestern over number 20 Michigan State, 70-63. Number 21 UCLA over Oregon, 65-56. Number 23 Iowa State over St. John's, 71-60. The college basketball poll for this week is out. Houston is now the number 1 team in the country. Houston's number 1. Texas is number 2. Wow. Virginia is number 3. Purdue's at 4. UConn jumps up to 5. Arizona is number 6. Kansas is number 7. Arkansas is number 8. Tennessee is number 9. Duke's at 10. Alabama is at 11. Maryland at 12. Auburn at 13. Baylor drops to 14. Indiana at 15. Kentucky drops to 16. UCLA at 17th. Illinois is 18th. Iowa State's 19th. San Diego State is ranked 20th. Gonzaga drops to 21st, off to a bit of a rough start. 5-3 this year, not great for them. Creighton drops all the way to 22nd. Ohio State to 23rd. TCU comes into the ratings at number 24. And Charleston has entered the ratings at 25th. On to some professional basketball scores from last night. You had the Pelicans over the Nuggets, 121-106. Jose Alvarado, a career night, 38 points. He had 8 threes. Fans were chanting, Jose, 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 at the end of the game. Well, what a performance by Jose Alvarado. He's a really good player, great defender, very underrated, now goes off for 38. Big year, big game for him. Pelicans looking really good, 15-8 this year. Suns over the Spurs, 133-95. That is a monstrous margin of victory for the Phoenix Suns, winning by 38. Celtics over the Nets, 103-92. Jaylen Brown, 34 points, 10 rebounds. Grizzlies over the Pistons, 122 to 112. John Morant, 33 points, 10 assists. Knicks over the Cavs, 90 to 81. That felt good as a Knicks fan to beat Donovan Mitchell, who we thought we were going to acquire in a trade, didn't end up happening. Jalen Brunson leads away with 23 points. Knicks got to get their crap together. They're 11 and 13, very inconsistent. They got to get it together. This is what happens. Like, you know, when their elite defense out they can play is there, look what happens. They beat one of the league's best teams in the Cavaliers. When it's not, they usually lose. If they can play defense like they did in the first year of under Tom Thibodeau, they can be a playoff team. If not, they'll be lucky if they get into the plans. Lakers over the Wizards, 130-119. Anthony Davis, 55 points, 17 rebounds, 3 blocks. The man has been on a tear. His last 9 games, he has been a monster. Lakers are playing a lot better, gotten back to 10 and 12. Anthony Davis is one of the league's best players right now. Kings over the Bulls, 110 to 101. Triple-double for Domantas Sabonis, 11 points, 17 rebounds, 10 assists. Zach LaVine, 41 points, 8 rebounds, and a loss. And Trailblazers over the Pacers, 116 to 100. Anthony Simons had 22 points. For college football, by the way, the top 4 college football teams for the college football playoff have been announced. It will officially be, number 1 is Georgia. Of course, they are undefeated, defending champs. Number 2 is Michigan. This year went undefeated, and they won the Big Ten. Number 3 was TCU, who went 12-1. They end up losing the Big Ten championship. I'll get to that in a minute. Number 4, Ohio State. They slide in. They finished with 11-1, and of course they lost to Michigan, so they didn't quite win the Big Ten this year, but did have a successful season. As for the conference championships in the Pac-12 championship, number 11 Utah upsets number 4 USC 47-24. The Cougars of Caleb Williams playing through an injury, 20-41, 363 yards and 3 touchdowns. He might win the Heisman. SEC championship, number 1 Georgia beats number 14 LSU 50-30, just ran through them. Number 2 Michigan over Purdue, 43-22 in the Big Ten championship. So they were able to clinch a top 2 spot in the college football playoff. Big 12 championship, number 10 Kansas State upsets number 3 TCU, 31-28 in overtime. TCU on 4th and goal from the 1 went for it, got stopped, and Kansas State ended up kicking a game-winning field goal. ACC championship, number 9 Clemson beats number 23 UNC, 39-10. They win the ACC once again. And then the AAC championship in the American Athletic Conference, number 18 Tulane beats number 22 UCF, 45-28. Kudos to Tulane. Last year had just 2 wins and completely turned around this year, won 11 football games, and won their conference out of nowhere. Kudos to them. So the bowl games are set. The college football playoff game will be played on New Year's Eve. Michigan and TCU will play each other in the Fiesta Bowl. And Georgia and Ohio State will play each other in the Peach Bowl. And the national championship will be on January 9th, Monday at 7:30 in Inglewood, California. Your New Year's 6 bowl games. I'm going to go over the rest of the bowl games tomorrow. But because there's so many of them. By the way, there is way too many bowl games in college football. It's like 42. You got teams that are like 6-6 getting in. That's ridiculous. They're like unranked 6-6. So like, why are you in a bowl game? Why? No reason. The other big bowl games we have in the Rose Bowl, number 11 Penn State versus number 8 Utah. Utah, of course, they ended up technically winning the Pac-12 this year. And then Penn State, was top 15 pretty much all year. In the Cotton Bowl, both of the games are on January 2nd. Number 10 USC versus number 16 Tulane. USC finished second in the Pac-12. Tulane won the AAC, came out of nowhere. In the Sugar Bowl, which will be played on the same day as the College Football Championship games, will be number 5 Alabama versus number 9 Kansas State. Alabama, they have a down year for them, having 2 losses. Kansas State, though, they won the Big 12 this year. Obviously, if Bryce Young plays, I'm sure Alabama will win. That being said, he did not commit to playing if Alabama does not make the college football playoffs, so we'll see. And December 30th, in the Orange Bowl, we have number 7 Clemson playing number 6 Tennessee. Clemson won the ACC again this year. Tennessee had one of the best years had one of their best seasons in years, with having just 2 losses and finishing 6th in the country. I'll go over the rest of the games tomorrow. NFL results. Another wild week in the NFL. On Thursday Night Football, Bills beat the Patriots 24-10. Bills handled them no problem. By the way, Matt Patricia, why is he the offensive coordinator? He is awful. He has no idea what he was doing. I didn't even think he was that good of a defensive coordinator, to be honest. It was really old. He was running Belichick's off defense, to be honest. So Bills pick up a win there, pretty much no problem. Steelers over the Falcons, 19-16. Can they get Marcus Mariota out of there? He's not good. Please, I beg. Somehow they're still in second place in that division. Ravens over the Broncos, 10-9. Lamar Jackson gets hurt. He hurt his knee. John Harbaugh said it's days to weeks at this point. Not season ending. We'll have an MRI. Supposed to have an MRI today to get some more clarity on that. But not season ending, which is good. Denver led 9-3 for a lot of that game. Tyler Huntley, their backup quarterback, had a game-winning rush touchdown with 28 seconds to go to propel the Ravens to 8-4. Broncos are 3-9. If the Broncos scored at least 18 points in every game this year, they would be 10-2. That team is awful. Hackett's got to go. He's an egregious head coach. Russ Wilson is washed. They got so many injuries. They have the worst. Their defense is like probably top 3 in the league, maybe the best in the league. But they have the worst offense in the league somehow. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing. 3-9. Yikes. Packers over the Bears, 28-19. Aaron Rodgers still owns the Bears. He still owns the Bears. They pick up the win. They came from behind that one. They were down 19-10 at one point, and they come back to win that one. Lions over the Jaguars, 40-14. Lions starting to play better. They get to 5-7. They light up the Jaguar. Big game for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Browns over the Texans, 27-14. Deshaun Watson, first game back from his suspension. He should not be playing for what he did, but the NFL decided to only give him 11 games, so he's back against his former team, the Texans. But he looked horrible. I get it, he hasn't played in 2 years, but he looked awful. Just 12 of 22, 131 yards, no touchdowns in a pick. You know, their defense, special team, had all their touchdowns. They had a return touchdown, they had a punt return touchdown. They had a pick six and the fumble return recovery, and then 2 field goals. Their offense wasn't responsible for any of our 3 touchdowns. Their defense, which looked horrible all year, had three defensive touchdowns. Brown get the 5-7 seconds. 1-10-1. They're on their backup quarterback. That team is awful, but Texans. Good Lord. Vikings over Jets 27-22. But just put up a good fight. Mike White, I thought, played well. He had a little love with 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then the 2 picks. But they had like 5 trips to the red zone, 4 field goals, no touchdowns. You gotta punch. You gotta punch in. You gotta be better in the red zone. They have to be better in the red zone, the Jets. Vikings go up 10-2. They are the real deal. Commanders and Giants tie. 20 apiece. They tie. So they end up in a tie. Giants 7-4-1. Commanders 7-5-1. Eagles over the Titans 35-10. A.J. Brown, 9 catches, $122, 2 scores against his former team. He said he's definitely motivated by the scheme after they traded him away. You had the Seahawks over the Rams 27-23. Another strong game from Geno Smith. Rams are cooked. Obviously, Matthew Stafford probably out for the year with going on IR. He's got some sort of spinal injury. They got so many injuries. They are cooked. 3-9. Their season's pretty much over. 49ers over the Dolphins, 33-17, but they lose Jimmy Garoppolo for the season. Their starting quarterback, broken foot, done for the year. Of course, Trey Lance is already out for the year. So Brock Purdy was mystery relevant, the last pick in the draft this year. Only quarterback they got. They just brought in Josh Johnson off the Broncos practice squad for depth. But Brock Purdy's the guy now. So both those teams are now waiting for. Kudos to him for coming in relief. Throwing for 210 yards and 2 touchdowns and a pick. Again, the win over the Dolphins. Bengals over the Chiefs 27-24. Bengals now won 3 in a row over the Chiefs. Of course, he beat them in the regular season last year, in the AFC Championship last year, and now yesterday. Penguins actually won 27-24 in my AFC Championship and in this game, which is kind of funny. Joe Burrow had a great game. Jamar Chase reminded everyone that he's one of the league's best receivers, coming back from a 4-game absence. Raiders over the Chargers 27-20. Raiders starting to play a little better. They've now won 3 in a row. Chargers, they are very inconsistent. They got to get rid of Brandon Staley. He's terrible. Sunday football, Cowboys won 54-19 over the Colts. 33 unanswered in the fourth quarter. That team is a dumpster fire. Jeff Saturday has no idea what he was doing. Looked promising at first, but, obviously, we saw his clock management 2 weeks ago. Now giving up 54 points. But Matt Ryan, he is cooked. Through 3 picks, he looked horrible. He is bleached. Cooked, washed, whatever you want to call it. He needs to go. Also, he looks like he's about to die every time the guy throws the ball. He is done. Get him off the field. Why is Nick Foles not in the game? The guy is one of the best backups in the league. He's come in for, an injured or a struggling starter before, led teams on late runs and got them to the postseason when it didn't look like they were gonna make it. He's a former Super Bowl MVP for crying out loud. I don't know why he's not in. He's not in that quarterback. Tony Dungy in the interviews, he also said that, and he was very right. The Cowboys go on 9-3. The game tonight on Monday Night Football is Saints against the Bucks. Before I wrap up, I want to do a recap from Monday Night Raw from last Monday. You had Becky Lynch brawled with Damage Control. That one even outside the arena. You had Mia Yim and Rhea Ripley ended in no context. Judgment Day and the OC got involved. That turned into a tag team match, and the Judgment Day beat the OC in a tag team match. The Street Profits, they beat Alpha Academy in a tag match. Austin Theory, he comes out color prone, and Seth Rollins came out and was getting in his face, and Austin Theory said, "I'll fight you on my terms," and left. Dexter Lumis defeated The Miz in an Anything Goes match, so he gets a WWE contract, and he gets all the money. He was owed Miz try. After the match, attacked Dexter Lumis. Dexter Lumis took back the bag of money. Dexter was giving out to some of the kids in the crowd, and he stole it from one of the kids. Then John Gargano comes up behind him, super kicks him, and gives the money back to the kid. Dexter Lumis, that was an interesting match. The guy moved very, very oddly. He crawls in and out of the ring, very odd. But he is now officially in WWE. Dexter Lumis. You had Candice LeRae defeat Dakota Kai in a one-on-one women's match in the main event. Kevin Owens, of course, early on you had a promo between KO and the Bloodline, maybe Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens says, "I'm done with you. I want to team with you. I want to fight you. We're done." Sami agreed. And then Jey Uso, who apparently now, of course, has gained the respect. Sami Zayn's gained his respect now. Saying, "If you got a problem with me, you got a problem with me." KO's like, "I said I was done with Sami. I'll fight you anytime." And he fought Jey Uso, and Kevin Owens won the match. That was WWE Raw from last week. That's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.